Woo.
Yay.
Well, it's fantastic, you know. We have so much to talk about this week. I mean, we would do if we actually put any research in.
Yeah, we've totally followed the news this week and everything.
Yeah.
Shh.
I've
They
been
don't need
busy. Jamie's been busy. Lucas is
Been playing video games.
pretty
Sorry,
much
you say you've been busy by the sounds of it, all you've been doing is sleeping.
at regular human times. Yeah. It's rare that that happens, but I've been out of the house every day this week, which is new. It hasn't happened in a long time. And my uncle came down from Korea for the first time in 2 years, so I went out, had a few drinks with him, had a meal, went shopping today, did things at normal human hours. Wasn't fun. Wasn't fun. And other than doing normal things at regular human times, I've been playing Overwatch because it's my life now.
So is anyone skipping the intro?
Okay. Should I just do it now?
I think we need to get someone else to do the intro because you sound like someone kicked your dog or something, yeah.
Okay, hello, welcome to the Technically Wrong podcast where we have no news.
Are you gonna damage
Computex
control?
happened. We're basically just going to talk about a few things that we remember from Computex for a little bit, and that's about it. Yeah. And I don't own a dog or a pet. I don't like dogs.
Did someone kick you then? Because you are a penguin, so. Someone kicked some form of animal to make you upset.
Well, my computer's dying. That'll do it. No. Yeah, no, I'm just incredibly tired as I am usually. This is going to be a great episode. This is going to be fantastic. All right. Let's say some things about news and stuff. Basically, the trends at Computex have been everything's RGB, even on cases, but especially on cases tempered glass. That's pretty much Computex this year.
Yeah, I actually posted you guys a link in chat. Just have a quick browse through and let me know which.
Yeah, I was just
Yeah,
having a look at some of them.
Tell me which one your favourite one is, and obviously this will be in the description of the video for other people. But I'll have them browse through. So these are some cool cases.
Yeah, a lot of the companies are just bringing out the old cases, but with tempered glass side panels, which is a bit annoying. One of the coolest things that I saw at Computex this year was the Avalon concept by Asus. I think I brought that up last week, where I said, it's all like modules that go across, and that's like the Razer prototype thing. But
I don't think you did bring it up last week, but I did see some videos and that. It does actually look quite good.
yeah, it's a really cool concept. I just hope that they actually do support for it in the future. But yeah, no, that's just a really cool like new take on it. And it's a lot less difficult to manufacture. Like it's closer than the Razer prototype that they showed off because that's like fully like each and every module is going to be completely like made by Razer basically, whereas you can provide your own CPU, your own like RAM and graphics card and stuff for this, whereas with the Razer prototype you'd have to buy the specific modules. So this is more like 2 to 3 years in the future of like possibly becoming a norm. I doubt it will ever be a norm per se, but I think it would be like maybe part of the market, like something that is more readily available than it will be for the next couple years. So
In a sense, it's falling into lines of what Steam machines were supposed to be, were modular PCs you could upgrade when you had the money.
sort of, but they were essentially no, it's nothing because the Steam machines were mostly just the software part, with maybe like a CPU on chip, if not on motherboard or whatever, uh, um, and yeah, you could upgrade them like periodically and stuff like that. But this is especially like they provide the motherboard and they provide a bunch of PCBs to actually conform to the case. So there's a bunch of riser cards. So say the cylindrical MSI like gaming PC that they made to kind of parody, like, well, not parody, but like copy sort of the Mac Pro. That kind of design philosophy of having a main like a board at the bottom with the like, and then a board riser with the CPU, and then all of the connections going off into other areas of the case to make it into that kind of form factor of that case. And this is a similar kind of thing, except that you don't have to have, the GPUs have like a weird heatsink. You can just stick an actual GPU in it. So it is more modular in that respect. Just you can put your own GPU, and whereas the MSI and like the Mac Pro and stuff, they have specifically designed GPUs for those enclosures. So this is more of just providing the riser boards and the connections and everything to have it fit in that form factor.
Yeah, I quite like the modular stuff. Really, I mean, it's interesting. I think I don't personally see it taking off because I think people enjoy the modular stuff's nice, like it's accessible, but I think people are just gonna enjoy to build. I think that's part of the fun of building your own PC is the components and the way it looks. I think fully modular is going to make things a little bit too easy, and I think people are going to want to avoid that. It kind of takes the fun out if it's just everything is just 10 seconds plug and play.
From what I could see from the demos they showed, it's not exactly 10 seconds plug and play. All they've done is made it fit into a different kind of case with less cables. That's all they've done, they've removed cables.
Yeah, but it's just it's the riser cards and all that stuff. The only real problem is the motherboard is solely from Asus. It comes with the case basically, so you can't get your own motherboards and stuff like that. But it's an interesting concept, and I'd like to see where it goes, basically.
Yeah. Going back to the tempered glass thing, I don't really know why everybody started doing that. I know everybody has. I just don't know.
See, it started with things like Lee and Lee did all their tempered glass. Like they even had like a tempered glass front to their case, and it's kind of the minimalist design and all that stuff. But
To be fair, I think that is the case industry in a nutshell. It's that guy did something that worked. Great, let's get on that. And just everybody piles on the bandwagon.
See, what I liked about cases when they were moving forward was getting rid of 5 1/4 inch bays. I thought they were a bit outdated, and you could just get an external drive. They cost about the same nowadays, and it's USB. And I mean, you could use it in your laptop. It's portable. You can stick it in your pocket at that point. It's not tethered to your computer, and you can just plug it in. And if look, if you're building a PC in a case that doesn't have a 5 1/4 inch bay, you can probably still boot from that USB optical drive. There's no I don't see the point of having one there. Like people say, oh, it's just nice to have there, but you could just see it on top of your computer, stick it in a drawer, forget about it. You still have it. It's just it's just the aesthetic, and also adding 3 fans in the front, like positive static pressure to get rid of dust is a nice thing. But when you only have 2 in the front, then you have 3 in the top and 1 in the back. That's not exactly positive airflow, is it? So having 3 case fans in the front is a nice thing to have. So the H440 was
Just to
the
point out,
first.
you can change, because you're making it sound like you have to have the ones in the top is your outflow. You really don't.
A lot of cases don't really have proper dust filters on the top, so it wouldn't draw in as much dust, but you think about dust settling on the top and then getting pulled into your system anyway. If there's not a proper dust filter on the top, then what's the point of having positive airflow if you're literally just chucking it into your PC? Anyway, The H440 was the first case that really blew me away. It had a power supply shroud, it had three fans in the front, and I thought it was aesthetically stunning. And that's the case that I own. And to be honest, like other than maybe the Fantex Enso, what was it? No, it's the Evolve Mini ATX. That's the other case that I kind of like. The ATX is just it's just a bit too big for like the aesthetic and everything because it's got too much with full ATX and even mid towers. A lot of them just have almost too much space in them. It's weird to say it like that, but especially with the windows and everything being as large as they are, showing off stuff like hard drive cages, and that's what I don't get about the tempered glass stuff. Is when you have an entire side panel that is just a pane of glass, you can see parts of the frame. You can see all of the little tie down points on the back, like if your motherboard doesn't cover it completely, and like the second grommet holes. And yeah, you get that problem with a lot of regular Windows as well. But especially the problem I find is when you see like hard drive cages, they're ugly. And a lot of these cases still have them. And a lot of these cases still have 5 1/4 inch bays. And though that's the most ugly because you can get rid of all the hard drive cages and everything, and then you just got this like single rail sticking out. Like just it's obviously there, and a lot of these cases you can't get rid of it. And I think it defeats the purpose of having such a large window, especially when you can't get rid of the 5 1/4 inch bay and like the front, and then it's just got a cutout and stuff. It ruins the aesthetic. And I would like to see slightly shorter cases with like the mounting on the side, like for just 2.5 inch or something, and then at the bottom having 3.5 inch support next to the power supply, and just making them slightly shorter so there's not so much empty space. Because the Windows, it's so jam packed. You see the motherboard, you see the GPU, you see everything, and then there's just a massive void of empty space. And you can stick a reservoir, but really, for a lot of these cases, you'd have to stick two to fill the amount of empty space that's just there if you don't have the hard drive cages installed. And some of these cases don't even have hard drive cages. They just have places that you can mount SSDs flush on the kind of, the back of the the motherboard tray kind of area to the side. um and it's so much empty space. It doesn't look right.
Yeah, I guess it's all down to that kind of minimalist look, though, isn't it? I guess, not necessarily minimalist case, but everything being neat inside and maybe not taking up all of the room. Just it's that kind of look. I know. I used to be a fan of like larger motherboards, but recently, I've become more and more. I don't know. I've become more and more um, like with the ITX stuff. I think like that's really just
I
because.
think M80X is my personal favorite. You can still have two graphics cards, and considering the way that Nvidia are going with the 1080 with, pretty much only 2 ASLI being viable, you can still do 3 and 4, but the drivers aren't really there. It's just for developers and stuff. So, you know, I think M80X is kind of the way of the future, making computers just a little bit smaller, but not like to the degree of ITX. And we are getting single graphics cards that can pump out really compelling 1440p experiences. Not quite 4K yet. We will get there, either 1080 Ti or maybe like Vega 10, but like next generation of this architecture, we will be there, like 4K will be a
Yeah.
thing. So yeah, ITX will kind of get there eventually. But the thing is, to be honest, in as an enthusiast, I think M80X is the way to go because you can still get like X99 M80X
Oh yeah.
boards and stuff like that. That would be my next PC. If I was to build a new PC right now, okay, and I'd have to, obviously, if I was building it right now, I'd have to go with 1080s because I'd be stupid not to, frankly. But if I was doing it on the release of, say, Vega 10, I'd do that, obviously. But if I was to build a new PC right now, I would get an M80X Broadwell motherboard, stick a 5960X in it because it's £200 cheaper, and then I can basically spend the amount of money that I would have extra on top of the 5960X to get a Broadwell motherboard with all of the new features and USB Type-C and all of the fancy new stuff that's out, and get a really nice one. And then stick, maybe two 1080s in there and 32 gigabytes of RAM and a couple SSDs in Fantex Evolve M80X, and I'd be happy, obviously, because that's a fucking ridiculous PC.
Yeah, I think honestly, if I was to build another PC today, I'd do M80X as well. Like, I really like the ITX form factor because I like that you can make it really small, and you could do
Well, there's a really cool case at Computex, which is basically, I mean, it doesn't have support for a graphics card, but it's a like all aluminium like case with like channels for airflow and stuff outside of the case. So if you got like a decent room or whatever, but it's a passively cooled case that is a heatsink for your CPU. So it just has heat pipes going up to the top panel to radiate heat out. So say stick a Pentium in that or something like that, or even maybe a Broadwell chip, a low power Broadwell chip, even an i5, just a non-overclocked version, lower clock maybe, or even a Xeon might like a low end Xeon could work quite well with the lower clock speeds. And then you can passively cool, and it looks beautiful. Like that is a work of art. That case, it's beautiful. I can't remember what it's called. But yeah, such a nice little case, and that case is a heatsink, and that's really cool. So the things that we can do with ITX is really really cool nowadays. And I mean, you stick a Xeon in that, or we'll say an i5, and then you could still run like 4K panels and stuff. Just have a little basic PC, and that would be pretty cool.
I think what I would do is if I was building a PC today, I think I would do ITX, but I'd honestly, like, if I was building a PC today, I actually wouldn't care as much about the case. What I would do is I'd take the top drawer out of my desk and I'd get a 4U server short case, and I'd do like a full-on water-cooled build with, a full PC inside it, just where my top drawer would be.
Yeah.
Because I don't know, that I've had a massive tower around for a while, and it's just it's really cool to build at first, and it's one of those really novel things to have, and then the novelty kind of wears off, and it's just a massive brick sat on your desk, and you're like, oh well, this is just a bit annoying, really. Like that's why ITX kind of appeals to me, because it's kind of small. I can get it out of the way. That's why server. If I was going to do M80X, I'd do a server one, and I'd do it like a glass top panel, and I'd do for like full on hard tube water cooling and stuff. Because next time I build a PC, that's what I'm going to do. So it would look aesthetically pleasing, and I built it to be aesthetically pleasing, but ultimately it spent most of its time just in the desk, out of the way.
Yeah, not a bad idea. I know it's interesting, just because I mean that case came around because Intel have been going for lower power CPUs and lower temperatures, even though the architecture is getting smaller and stuff. So it's nice to move in that direction, but we really do need some performance parts that are cheaper than $1.5 grand. But yeah, I mean when AMD Zen architecture comes out and it's supposedly 8 cores and as fast as a 5960X or 6900K and stuff, that I'll hopefully shake them. It's just so much waiting. That's kind of what I've got tired of AMD recently. It's like I'm not even disappointed with their products necessarily. It's just it takes such a long time for them to actually come out. They wait so long after Intel and they wait so long after Nvidia that when they come out, no matter how fast they are, they're kind of disappointing.
Right. Yeah. It's a shame, but it's true.
Also, their Play.tv piece of software is terrible. All right. I wish I had an NVIDIA GPU simply to use Shadowplay because it's a nightmare. That software is the worst. It does not work. It doesn't. Like when it does record, it's choppy. I've set it to the maximum. I give it 50 gigabytes, 1080p, 60 FPS, highest bandwidth I can possibly give it, and it's still a stuttery mess, and half the time it crashes. Real disappointment. Just want to
Yeah.
show people my play of the game as Reinhardt, but no.
I think. Does your GPU have a built-in H.264 encoder though? Because that's what that's really taking advantage of. If not, it'll have to do the encoding on the GPU, which is not ideal.
I'm pretty sure it does. That I'm not 100% sure.
Because I know all NVIDIA ones since like the 600 series have had them.
I'm pretty sure AMD have since like 7000 series, so, and I've got a 7990, so it should do. I mean, the software is supported from the 7000 series onwards, so I'd assume that's the case.
Yeah, you'd have to assume so. Interesting.
But that is a good point. I'll have to look that up. And I mean, if it is encoding off the GPU, my GPU is currently on fire, so that would explain the problems.
Yeah, because one of the reasons why Shadowplay doesn't really have any performance hit at all, like I'll be playing the game and not really see hardly any FPS drop, is because it's not really GPU being utilized. It's the dedicated encoder for it.
I have decided I'm going to buy a 480.
A 480.
Yeah. I mean, for that price point, like, I was to tide me by just to get through and then buy something in the future. Because I mean, my GPU is currently idling at 60 degrees, and it gets up like 85 before it completely thermal throttles down to like 750 megahertz.
Ouch.
Yeah, I mean, I can still play Overwatch pretty much no problems. It's just when it thermal throttles, I drop quite a few frames, and then it balances out to be, normal 60 again. But those drop frames can be, life and death.
Yeah.
So that kind of sucks. But I mean, it was a Bitcoin mining card. I picked it up for 250 quid. It's more powerful than a 390X at the time. 290X at the time that I bought it was like brand new. And I picked this thing up for 250 quid, which is like half the price of what the 290X was going for at the time. More powerful. And it served me, like 3 years now? So I really can't complain. For a Bitcoin mining card, and I mean, yeah, I have to replace the thermal paste every month or so, or it melts itself. But I'm getting a bit tired of it after 3 years.
Yeah, it does suck. But speaking of old hardware, we had a conversation earlier, which might be interesting. I guess on the back of damage control to do with Adobe.
Oh yeah, I was being a fucking idiot and also being tired and excuses.
So usual.
The usual, yeah. I want to finally, like by episode 10, I'd like to have done a podcast where I'm not incredibly tired and I have done some research. Like my goals for up to episode 10 are get some sleep, do some research. But yeah, no. There's the internet's favorite processor at the moment is the Xeon E5 2670. It's a 8-core Xeon, I think based on either Sandy Bridge or Ivy Bridge. I'm pretty sure it's Sandy Bridge, because they're discontinued. So there's no real support for them in like server grade stuff anymore. So they're getting sold off for ridiculously cheap. You can pick one of these processors up for about 100 quid. It outperforms in a lot of things like a 4770K, and it's about as fast as maybe a 6700K. And it's an 8-core processor, so in multi-threaded workloads, it can work. However, in certain like multi-threaded processes, like it falls behind. I was watching a guy do some benchmarks, and he said it doesn't quite perform as well on Adobe because of maybe clock speeds or something. So it yeah, and in games the clock speeds aren't like great, so it's about as good as, like a i5 at that point, but it's a couple frames per second behind like a 4770K. And considering a 4770K now is still like what, 200 quid, that's like double. So if you pick one of these up with a cheap um X79 board, like an old one, or even like a server board or something, you can make a really, really cheap, really powerful PC. And I mean, yeah, I can recommend if you can find one for cheap enough, because they probably are going for like 50 quid at this point. But if you can find like if you pick up one of these Xeons and you pick up a 7990, may only last you a couple of years, but those couple of years will be like you'll have like 4770 grade performance for half the price of a 4770, and you'll have 390X performance for half the price of a 390X. So those two old pieces of ancient ass hardware paired together could make a kick-ass, really old and probably unreliable system.
But there are a lot of kind of older PC parts that you can pick up really ridiculously cheap now that actually perform surprisingly well. Like there's some old AMD Optron stuff, and it's really old stuff. It's really old server stuff. People are just selling it off. But you're getting like quad socket motherboards that can support 16 core CPUs each, and they're the 12 core versions of the CPUs are like 15 quid each. Which while that's not going to, while not having 48 cores is not something you want for gaming. When you're doing like virtualization on the side,
Set up a bloody server with that.
yeah, you get some, buy cheap DDR2. You're looking at 128 gigs of DDR2 isn't that much money for like 200 quid. You can build like 128 gigs around 48 cores and just virtual machines. Install Protomox on it. Off you go. Like that
Virtual
sort of
machines. So many virtual machines.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, just old technology is not too bad. Unless you buy a 7990 that a guy used for Bitcoin mining, and his story, right? He was selling what, like six 7990s. He didn't Bitcoin mine, he Litecoin mined, right? So he Litecoin mined, and he earned like over the cost of the PC components and everything. He earned something like 2 grand in Litecoins because he did it right at the beginning. And he wasn't Bitcoin mining, and not a lot of people were Litecoin mining, so they were still kind of expensive, but not so much. But the reason he was selling the hardware was because he lost his Litecoin wallet. So
No
he
way.
just tried to recoup like some of the cost of all of the hardware that he just wasted that much electricity on for 2 years.
Oh, that's funny. That's like the guy whose wife threw out the hard drive with his Bitcoin, you know, and lost, what was it, a couple £1 million, something like that.
He was such a nice bloke. I felt bad. I was like, I'll give you 300 quid. It's fine, I felt so sorry for the guy.
Can I just say something? He probably just conned you.
What? He conned me for the cheapest possible price of a 7990 on eBay at the time.
You probably could have got one for less somewhere, but him saying, "Oh, I lost it," yeah, that's yeah.
Nah, the bloke was really, really nice. I liked him. I talked to him on like Skype for a month afterwards. Nice bloke. Um, but yeah, no, he was like, I talked about just graphics cards in general, and uh, yeah, he worked IT. He worked IT, and he heard about like Litecoin mining and stuff, and they were worth more than Bitcoin at the time, And as he was Litecoin mining, like Bitcoins blew up, and that's when he quit and checked. Basically just said, "Yeah, okay, take my Litecoins," because they were diving in price at that point, because they were decently priced, and then Bitcoin started taking off and Litecoin started to disappear. So he was gonna just sell them all, and then apparently he lost it.
That does suck.
Yeah. He's also selling, um, is it Entamax? I think it was Entamax. So it's quite an old, but they were some of the first platinum power supplies, I think. I don't know if I think they're still making power supplies. I don't know if this is their fucking company now. It's been a long time since I've actually. I mean, if that is their name, it's been a long time since I've seen them like make power supplies. But yeah, he's selling like 1600 watt. Was it 1200 watt? Yeah, it wasn't 1600 watt. He's selling 1200 watt power supplies for like 50 quid.
Oh man.
Yeah, he just wanted to get rid of them. He seriously did. Like, at the time, I was looking at 7990. The reason I bought a 7990 in the first place was because I was looking at, I was like, oh, I'm gonna get a 290. I can just about afford a 290 if I stretch it, if I save up for a little longer or whatever. Because at that time, I had a 4770K, 16 gigabytes of RAM, all my fancy stuff on my computer currently, and then I had a 670 that was kind of on loan from a friend, because I had a 660 previous, but when I sold my old PC, I sold it all, and I was waiting to kind of weigh out my options of a graphics card, and my friend had just bought a 290, so he gave me a 670 for a while, and that thing was on fire. Like, that was a reference plasticky pile of shit cooler that
Oh no.
it went up to about 85 degrees and low. Like, I was playing Elite Dangerous, and I could just hear it screaming at me. And I look at MSI Afterburner. I'm like, okay, time to turn the settings down. It's it's going meltdown. um, yeah, and so I was watching a Linus Tech Tips video, and their end card at the time had 7990s in it. And I'd looked at like 690s, and I'd looked at just the Nvidia options, the older 600 series from the 700 series that was out. I was thinking of either a 770, but I didn't really want to go with Nvidia because I was starting to not like them at that point. Or I could go with 290 like my friend has, and he was considering when the next generation of graphics cards come out, because like very first rumors of like the 300 series were coming out, of what the 390X could be. And he was like, "Oh, I'll just give you my other 290 at that point." And I was like, "Yeah, fine." But that end title of Linus, and I just looked it up. I thought, you know what? I'll look it up just for fun, because that's kind of what I do. I build PCs in Amazon, or I used to. I don't do it that much anymore, but I used to just build PCs in like Amazon and Pot Picker and stuff just for fun. And I used to help people out with like what's best to buy and stuff like that. And I looked it up on eBay, and they were going for about 350 quid. And I found this one guy who had listed six of them, sold two, six of them for about 225. And so I I didn't have all of the money on me at that time, and I could have been completely screwed over. But I said, I'll give you 250 if I give you 25 right now, and you can wait 3 weeks. And then I got the rest of the money together, and I met the guy. He told me his sob story, and I went home with a kick-ass graphics card and ran Armor 3 at 60 FPS, 1080p for a while, and I was happy.
That is funny. But it's amazing that you can just, yeah, if you keep your eye out and you know what you're looking for, like, you can find these really amazing kind of older PC deals that perform, provided they're not dead, perform just as well as like any modern parts.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, the reliability may not be 100%, but if you think about the performance that you're getting for like the next 2 years or so, compared to even other graphics cards, I mean, the way the PC industry goes, it's not that bad of a deal. You know, getting one of those Xeons or my 7990 or something like that to tide you over until something brand new comes out, like 4K. I mean, 4K was just like, oh, there's some 4K TVs at the time where I bought this graphics card. And now we're like, there's 4K monitors and there's 4K bloody phone screens, you know. It was a dream at the time that I bought this graphics card. And this graphics card is still probably, if it was like fully 100%, like if the Crossfire worked 100%, and if each one of the stream processors worked as efficiently as, say, a Fury X, it would be as powerful as a Fury X, and that can still just about run 4K. So, I mean, if this thing was running at 100% capacity, 100% efficiency, I could probably run some 4K. And this is old hardware. Like, this was old hardware in 2013, well, or 2014 rather, when I bought it. You know, it was like late 2013 hardware. And I mean, that's the thing. Within a year, like, this is a relatively obscure graphics card. It didn't sell very well because it came out well after the lifespan, really, of the 7970. I mean, the 200 series was like a couple months later. And I guess that's kind of an odd thing that AMD have been doing. Their dual GPU cards are a bit weird. Like, the 7990 came out a couple months before the 200 series, and the 295X2 came out a couple months before the 300 series, and now we've got the, what is it, the Fury XO? Is that the new dual GPU Fury card?
I don't recall off the top of my head.
But yeah, the dual GPU Fury
Yeah.
card, that's coming out a few months before, well, the 400 series. It's like, but at that point, they're not worth it, and that's kind of the problem. They're just not worth it because you're pricing them like, if they were the price of two graphic, even if they were like 20% more expensive, but they're like 50% more expensive than two other graphics cards. And when the next generation is going to be faster, and you know it's going to be faster, then why bother buying that dual GPU graphics card? It's a weird business decision for sure, and I understand that there's a lot of manufacturing, a lot of engineering to get two GPUs on a single graphics card, but to be honest, you know, third party people like the people that made like the Devil 13 graphics cards, and there's even like there was the dual GPU 760 that came out, and you know, board partners have been making dual GPU graphics cards before proper in-house dual GPU graphics cards for years now, so it's just a bit of an odd choice.
I never actually heard about the dual GPU 760.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, Asus made it, I think.
Oh, really?
Yeah, no, they did. Yeah, they made it. They also made the Poseidon, like 780 and all that stuff. Just weird little in-house things. But yeah, that was a nice value card then. You know, it was the same as two 670s slash, you know, two 760s in SLI and all that stuff. So just weird little graphics cards like that. I mean, they weren't exactly super flagship, but they did do their, what was it, Aries series, I think, which was dual GPU graphics cards as well. So they have been doing this kind of stuff for years, just before the, you know, I guess Sapphire, maybe the, you know, OEM brand for AMD, and I can't remember what Nvidia's OEM is, but it's just it's a bit odd to price them at that. But speaking of board partners, considering I've rambled on about an ancient graphics card that I just happen to own for about 30 minutes, RGB everything, like, just graphics cards are now RGB. You get lighting features in your cases, motherboards, graphics cards, RGB on everything. Seriously, I think the next generation of the HTC Vive and Oculus Rift will have RGB for no reason, because you're obviously not going to be looking at that. But they probably will have RGB because just why? I like
Have you not seen
RGB.
the trend recently of most gamers that build their own computers are like, gonna put lights on it? All custom built, gotta have lights on it. Cases come with lights in them. It's like, They went with the fact that everyone wants their computer to light up like a Christmas tree because that's what everyone wants.
I mean, this is just my opinion, but I just think stick a couple of white LEDs to illuminate and stick with that, because when you start messing around with all of these different lights, it just drowns out all of the color and becomes bland. And like when people had REL LED fans or REL LEDs, it doesn't, it just kind of drowns out all of the other color in the case. And I really don't. I understand why it is. It's because the peripherals have been RGB for a while now, like RGB keyboards and mice, even headsets for fuck's sake. So yeah, we're gonna get RGB this and that, but really, like, you don't. Graphics cards are orientated in a way that you don't see, like, where the fans are most of the time. And although, now that I say that, I must say there have been a lot of cases at Computex that have had the graphics card in a vertical um, kind of orientation. So I must, like, assume that that's because all of these manufacturers are putting bloody LEDs on everything. But I just hope it doesn't increase the price of these things. That's the thing that I have to say about all of this tempered glass stuff on the case market, is I really hope that it doesn't increase the base price of most of these cases. Because tempered glass is an expensive, thing to add to a computer case. So does that mean that the base price of all of these new cases that are going to come out are going to be much more expensive?
I
Or
would
are they
doubt
going to
that
skimp in
because
other areas?
all they're going to do is lose people that don't want to pay that kind of price. And if they start skimping on other areas, they're gonna cause issues. They're gonna make the cases less stable. They're gonna have an issue of what Microsoft did with the Xbox 360 of them cheaping out on parts and cause the console to melt down.
Well,
And
I
I think,
doubt the case is going to melt down, but I see
well,
your
no, it
point.
could
Yeah,
fall apart or
yeah, yeah,
things will break faster than they're supposed to. So
yeah. Yeah. I don't get it. I It's moving in such a good direction for me, and I know it's just me. Most people be like, "Oh, I love all this stuff," but for me especially, like getting rid of the 5.25 inch bays, making cases a little bit smaller, better radiator support. That's all nice. That's fantastic. Um, and then just randomly out of the blue, everything's tempered glass, as well as the vertical orientation of these graphics cards. It's really weird how they've done it in a lot of cases, because in a lot of these cases, it seems like they're limiting you to a single graphics card, or at least a single, vertically placed graphics card. I've seen like one or two that has support for two, and I guess that makes sense with, the 1080 blah 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 SLI. But on, in full huge ATX, like full tower cases, having only support for 1 to 2 graphics cards is a bit odd. And then in a lot of these things, you wonder, are they just gonna, what kind of PCBs are they gonna have? Are they gonna have the risers and stuff, or the extensions? It's weird. We're gonna have to see when these cases release what kind of prices they are, what kind of quality they are, because they're just adding so much stuff to it that I really don't know how they can bring it at the kind of prices that we've been seeing. And I think the prices that we've been seeing are fair. There has been an upward trend, but at this point it might just skyrocket and just be like, I'll just stick with my H440 forever.
yeah, it's a good case.
It's got its issues, but
Yeah, like no 5.25 inch base. I want a CD drive in my case. Oh, and the fact my graphics cards have the temptation of melting the window on the panel.
Have you got one?
What, H440?
Yeah.
Yes.
And your graphics cards are melting the panel.
Well, no, because I take the panel off to keep my computer cool.
Oh wow. Oh, I see what you mean. You mean the front panel, or
The window panel.
wow. No, I
My
haven't.
graphics card sit about a half-inch away from it, so the
Oh,
glass
okay.
right next to it tends to heat up very well. The plastic
How
tends to heat up
your
very quickly.
graphics cards must extend a lot above the like standard.
2780 Ti's.
Yeah, but and yeah, they are hot graphics cards. But like, what kind of coolers do you have on them?
He's got the EVGA ones here.
EVGA classified cards.
Class. Oh yeah, they are big, hefty motherfuckers, aren't
Yeah, hefty melt. But this way, I wasn't paying attention the other day, and I hadn't set the limits on how far it could go temperature-wise, and it hit 95 degrees. I could basically boil water on the back plates of my graphics cards.
they? Oh no, I could do that just on idle, so don't worry about it. But at least my graphics cards aren't touching my bloody window. So yeah, I do occasionally have to take the front off because the airflow isn't phenomenal in this case. That is one of the major problems. Like, it's a
Major
bit.
problem is there's no 5.25-inch bay, and I have no CD drive in my computer. I want a CD drive, pictures. We have like 12 in our house, sitting in boxes I could use, and I can't put any of them in the bloody thing.
You can get a SATA to USB 3, and you can get a SATA power to power. Just hook it up externally.
When I'm not bothered to use a CD drive, I just borrow my dad's
Yeah.
external one that he has.
Well, if you've got that was my entire point. If you've got an external one, stop complaining.
No, I don't have an external one. My dad does, and he uses it occasionally. So.
Yeah, and your graphics
But I
cards
prefer
came from your
internal ones
dad,
'cause
and
they're
your
far
PC
better.
came from your dad. We get it. You don't actually buy anything.
No, I just don't need to because he buys everything and gives me what he's not using anymore.
Well, then stop bloody complaining about not having a CD drive. Just get him to buy a new one and steal his.
No, I'm complaining about the case. Not, I have CD drives. Just that case won't take them because I have no 5.25-inch bays.
Oh, what a fucking mess. Yeah, I'd like to just like, I don't know, I'd like to learn how to work with aluminium and just make my own bloody case to fit the components I'm going to stick in it and make something that I'm happy with. And I'll probably not do it on the first try or the second or the third or the fourth or the fifth, but 7 years down the line where the case manufacturing process and everybody else has conformed to what I like, I will have made my perfect case. When everybody else also has that case because, everybody else has moved on. Yeah, there was something else. There's a weird analog keyboard that's making the rounds on the internet and stuff, and it was shown off at Computex. But it's weird. I wanted to talk about this because of the peripheral stuff, like everything being RGB and mechanical these days. But this is like an analog one, which is a bit peculiar. It has because there's like a purely linear one where it doesn't have an actuation point, and there is one with an actuation point. But the whole basis of this keyboard is that there's an infrared sensor that knows how far you've pushed the key down. So it can basically act as a joystick, meaning that when you plug it into Windows, it shows up as a keyboard, as a controller, and a joystick. And that means that you have to get games that support that kind of thing. And then you have to map pretty much every key to be a controller. So I kind of think that just defeats the purpose. I think if you had a mechanical keyboard, and then you had like maybe the WASD, or you had like either the arrow keys or WASD or something like that could be that kind of analog. So you only had to bind them. So you could still play racing games and stuff. But considering the entire keyboard is the same kind of thing, and in games you'd have to bind shift and space and pretty much everything to be kind of right. As far as I don't know if it would show up properly. It's a weird concept, and the support has to be there. And again, it's an interesting concept.
I would say
And
if it's anything like other keyboards, like, because sounds like it'll have similar functionality binding wise as a Z board, that they'll have predefined setups you can use for games, and then you can just alter them.
yeah,
And plus, like, binding keys isn't that much of a problem. I actually prefer it when games actually let you bind your own keys and not tell you must use these keys.
oh yeah, for sure. But it's just weird. Like I don't know. It's it's kind of a prototype. Nobody's really knows what's going on. I don't think anybody's been sent it yet. But I'm definitely gonna follow that. Like I'm gonna see where that goes. And if there's enough support for it, if it is a good product at the end of the day, then it'd be interesting to see, well, everybody else jump on the bandwagon if it's successful and see where that kind of technology and that kind of keyboard goes.
It does look interesting. It's one of those things that will, if it gains following, I think will be massive, and if it doesn't gain following, it'll die immediately.
It'll be the new Dvorak.
Well,
But yeah, I mean, it basically they've shown it off in Computex in Overwatch because Overwatch lets you bind everything because Overwatch is a good game unless you don't like gambling. This is pretty much your reward system, unfortunately.
Yeah. Well, I was gonna say all Blizzard games have fully rebindable keys.
Yeah. But I wanna talk about that a little bit because Jim Sterling made a good video on it. Total Biscuit debate. There's two sides of the story and everything, and I fall somewhere in the middle. I like that you don't have XP. I like the game and the mechanics and everything, but it kind of does annoy me a little bit that the only reward in the game is basically gambling. Now, in the first like 20 to maybe 30 levels, I got so many legendaries, so many sprays and everything, but I'm like level 65 now. And I've basically gotten so many doubles of things that I've already got. It kind of rewards you differently. So at the beginning you get so much new stuff, and nowadays I get so many doubles that I get enough currency to buy what I want. But I think that the loot boxes should at least come with, like, especially with like Hearthstone packs, I think they did it right there. You're guaranteed at least something good in each pack. And you can grind and get them yourself or you can buy them. That's the same thing that loot boxes do. Except loot boxes, you're not guaranteed anything good. You're not guaranteed anything good whatsoever. So it kind of, and they're pretty bloody expensive when you consider that it is just a full-on gamble. Like Hearthstone cards, I thought loot boxes were a good value at the beginning. I bought a few just because I had a bit of money in my account. Like I had like £4 or something, and that's as much for I think it's like 2 loot boxes, and yeah, 2 for £4. That's not great, but no. It's 5, I think. 5 loot boxes for £4. So 5 wasn't too bad. So I opened those and I got like a legendary. I was happy at the beginning and like whatever, but I haven't bought any since then. And getting grind because it takes such a long time to level up, and then your only reward is a loot box that will maybe give you 2 doubles and 2 blues, right? The lowest possible thing. I haven't had a legendary in 20 levels. That really fucking sucks. I think the loot box system should at least give you guaranteed some money, like some currency. Like even if it's just a blue, it should at least give you guaranteed some money in each loot box so you can buy whatever you want. That's all I really ask for. I don't ask for like an epic or a legendary in each bloody box because that's a bit excessive. Because then you wouldn't, you wouldn't get anywhere. But blue currency is only 50 currency, so that's nothing really. That's like 2 voice lines for a character. So each level getting like 50 currency, you could build up. It still takes a long time to get a legendary, but when you're not guaranteed even currency, when you level up, you might get some doubles and get maybe 10 currency, but come on. Like, it is a grind at this point to get anything. I'm still thoroughly enjoying the gameplay of the game. It's fantastic. I bloody love the game. But just the loot box system is a bit flawed. And that's a real shame.
Yeah, there are a lot of games going that way. It's kind of sad, but it is happening more and more.
Oh, actually, just to point on that, 'cause, microtransaction news. Either of you play Payday 2?
Oh, they scrapped the whole everything, didn't they?
Yeah, they removed all microtransactions. Well, the microtransactions for the chests that they had because a new company bought Payday 2, like the IP for it in the game, and they basically went, "Yeah, we're removing all of this."
Yeah, which is a good move.
It's like it is because if you think about it, the amount of DLC Payday 2 currently has that you can buy to get a bunch of stuff, it's kind of a stupid thing to then put microtransactions in the game.
And that's why it may be a full price game, but that's why I don't necessarily mind that you can buy loot boxes. It's just that I think if you're gonna buy loot box, if you're gonna give it as an XP reward as well as you allow people to buy them, at least give them something in each case.
I think a better way of doing it would just to be, like as Jim Sterling suggested, was like DLC unlocks, just to pay for DLC to unlock all of the skins or the skins you want, that kind of thing. Because you are paying a full retail price. You're paying what, 40 quid for Overwatch, so that's a AAA game price, and then you're having to pay microtransactions into the game.
You don't have to, but you
Well, no,
kind
you
of
don't
do.
have to, but when it's your only form of reward in the game is these loot crates, there's like, what's the point?
Yeah, I can't. As much again, Jim Sterling loves the game, and I'm on the same page as him. Like, as much as we both love the game, it is just it's so fucking good. Like, it is really depressing to work for 2 hours, like, well, about an hour or so, like per level. Like, for the next like 50 levels, it's an hour per level, so it's like 50 hours to get 50 levels. That's 50 hours to get 50 loot boxes, or you could spend 50 quid to get 50 loot boxes. Yeah, it's just it is a grind, and I've just opened like crate after crate, and it's just there's nothing in them. And the worst possible thing is when you open a loot box and a legendary pops out, and it's a double. It's one that you already have, and it doesn't even give you half or a quarter of the amount of currency for another legendary. That fucking sucks.
Yeah, I think one thing I don't get is like there are people that apparently defend Blizzard's choice for microtransaction. Like, just wait, why does Blizzard need more money? This is Blizzard, owners of the #1 MMO game, which at one point was making them over $10 million a month in just the subscriptions for the game.
I don't mind it, but I'd prefer if we didn't have it.
Like, Blizzard doesn't need the extra money. They're doing it because they want the extra money. The extra money doesn't mean they'll do more development. They're probably going to do more development anyway, even if they didn't have the money, because they don't need it.
I mean, yeah, they still update Diablo 2. Yeah. So.
Plus, they've sold 7 million copies of Overwatch already.
Yeah, probably closer to 8 million now. Because that was like early last week they sold 7 million?
Yeah, so I would say probably close to 7.5 at this point.
Well, I mean, there was 9 million in the beta, and yeah, I guess yeah, 7 million out of 9 million people were like, "I'm buying this," and
Yep.
that's a pretty fucking successful launch. And
But the thing about a lot of those people are also buying extra copies because they get banned for cheating. Even though that was only a few thousand people, but there are people who've bought multiple copies because they keep cheating and
it's
getting
so
banned.
dumb. That's so dumb. Yeah. Yeah, I've been getting see, Overwatch I thought was a game where you like I've seen a lot of people you're not supposed to, but I've seen a lot of people, pardon me. I've seen a lot of people main characters in Overwatch. Like I play with a guy who's played 30 hours of the game and he's played 24 hours of Pharah. So he's played pretty much only Pharah, and he's fantastic Pharah, and he can win games just because he's Pharah. But you know, Overwatch, I don't know, it's an adaptable game. So my most played character has maybe 4 hours above like the rest of them, and then the rest of them are quite even. But I love Reinhardt; it's fantastic, so much fun. I got so many player the games recently with him; it's a ton of fun. And yeah, once you get like really good with one, and then you're decent with a few that can, counter, or not necessarily counter, but just, be applicable against certain other guys, then I think you've got a nice balance. And the better that I get with Reinhardt and the more kind of ultimates that I pull off and kind of plays that I make, it just feels fucking incredible. And to be
It's the
honest,
League of Legends mentality or MOBA mentality of you main one character, you have others as your backups. It's
sort of, yeah.
that's
To
basically
a
what
lesser
it is.
extent, yeah.
That's what
But
people are taking into it as a mindset.
yeah. But in the beta, I got kind of annoyed a lot with just team composition, and I obviously had that big rant, which basically made the game sound like terrible. But um, I've not had that problem really. Like my teammates have all been decently solid. Like some of them won't get on the point. That's kind of annoying, but I have had a lot stronger teams since the game came out. It's been a really solid launch. I'm glad that they had the open beta. I think it's the best thing that they could have possibly done for the game, and they did it. And it came out, and it was a challenge. Like in the open beta, it was a cakewalk until it wasn't. Until I was getting, you know, destroyed. Like it was either like 90% of the time it was a cakewalk, the easiest fucking game in the world, and so much fun because of it. And then 10% of the time I got super fucking salty and wanted to kill myself. But in the actual game, especially when you get into higher levels and people really know what's going on, it is a proper challenge to actually do a lot of these games. And it is so rewarding when you pull off something spectacular, and it's such a good game. I love it. And that's why you kind of have to point if you love something, you kind of have to point out it has flaws, and it would be better without the stupid gambling grinding only reward is non-guaranteed skins, because that really does kind of suck. I'd like that to change, but that's something that's probably not going to change.
Nope.
I mean, overall, we're probably just going to get over it. So it will be a shame because Overwatch is so successful, and because there's so many people defending what Blizzard have done with it. It will be a shame to see more and more games do the same thing, and then people defend those games by saying, "Oh, Blizzard did it." I think that's the real problem here.
Yeah.
It's because Blizzard can get away with it. So people are going to use because Blizzard can get away with it as an excuse for other people to get away with it.
They really can't ish. They've had to backtrack on a few things because they thought they could get away with it. Diablo 3 was one of them.
Yeah, but I just mean specifically the loot box thing. For now, they've pretty much gotten away with it. Like there is a debate, but people have just gotten over it because the game's so good.
Yeah.
And so like shit games with similar microtransaction crap will then use that as a defense. I mean, at that point, why would you even be playing that game? But you know, they'll still use it.
But
So,
anyway,
yeah, talking about money down the drain and gambling, I think it's time for some fuck Konami news.
Yeah, all the news to make you say, fuck Konami. All rights reserved for Jim Sterling. Thank God for Jim Sterling for that line.
Go on then, it's your fucking story, mate.
So apparently it has come out. Everyone thought, oh, Konami's going to do something nice. They're apparently going to remaster a Metal Gear Solid game. Then it came out, oh, it might be Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater, the most loved of the franchise, basically. And it turned out they were turning it into a fucking pachinko machine.
Because fuck Konami.
Yes, fuck Konami and their goddamn gambling. I know it makes them a shit ton of money, but fuck's sake. So, and I saw some of like the cinematic footage they're apparently going to have for the pachinko machine, and it looks really nice. It's like, why couldn't they just remaster the game? They'd have a ton of money. But no, mobile games and pachinko machines.
Look,
that's what they want to do.
People are dickheads. All right, people are dicks. That's just the way of the world. A bit like people stealing Fallout 4 mods.
No segue on that one.
You know, because just stealing mods for fuck's sake.
Yep, this came about this last week or so since Xbox One got access to the modding community for Fallout 4. Apparently, some individual people have been re-uploading other mod authors' mods as their own. One guy was even asking for donations and was, I think he did get some, but he was asking for donations in Xbox Live games. Some have been, like, some instances have been solved with no problems and people have taken mods out. Others are just being blatant dicks about it. And in a response, some of the modding community's more venerable mod authors have pulled their mod from Nexus Mods and other places. I think a couple of DB Productions and Eleonora, some of the most prolific in modders. So, no mod from them for a while until people behave and stop acting like assholes.
I guess it's no mods period then.
Yeah, well, hopefully Bethesda's trying to help solve the problem, which they've basically told the mod authors.
solve the problem.
Yeah, as they solved the problem, they basically went, we're giving you the tools to try and fix it on your own because we don't want to trouble it. They basically tell mod authors to issue DMCA takedowns to ZeniMax to have the mod removed from Bethesda.net.
Because they're taking the YouTube approach.
Well, yes, in a theory, they have the right to, because it is their creative input. It's something they created, they technically own it. So they have the right to do it, but Bethesda are doing it just so they don't have to deal with hundreds of people going, this person stole my mod, this person stole my mod, this person stole quite a few.
It's a bit like
mods.
when Notch added, I think it was potions to the game, and the guy tried to sue because he had a mod that was practically the same.
Yeah. Well, you can say that about Skyrim when they added the DLC which gave you a house. People have made mods for houses tons of times since Oblivion.
Yeah, it's a weird mess of confusion and obviously like people who haven't even like made like there's going to be some people who have stolen mods and then claim that when the guy takes it back or when the guy publishes his version or something like that, he's going to be like, oh no, he stole my mod, and it's just going to open up to a big mess. And so I think Bethesda should have stepped in a little bit more
Yeah,
and
well, this is the
helped
thing.
out.
The modding community's been quite good about policing itself, and it's very hard, especially for the well-established modders, to have their work stolen and people get away with it, because it's like, people know this stuff. They know, like, who made it kind of thing. So, I think it's just going to be a few teething problems until everything solves itself out. And consoles owners stop acting like peasants, and join is in the master race of being wonderful with all our modding.
Yeah. And of course, just companies need to allow mods and allow people to buy their fucking games where they want to mod them and do whatever. And I'm glad that Xbox is taking steps towards allowing mods and stuff, but I mean, just Microsoft has done really good things and then really fucking dumb things,
Well,
like,
this
you
is the thing.
know.
Modding for consoles has been difficult because, for the pure fact, the games are made differently for the consoles. But because with the Xboxes just running Windows 10 now, the games are exactly the same. The only thing
Yeah.
with Fallout 4 was Bethesda implemented the Nexus website. They basically had the Bethesda.net to be a repository for the mods. It's basically all they needed, and then for the mods to then not break the game.
Yeah, but Microsoft apparently aren't doing their Windows 10 game store isn't doing as well as they wanted it to.
No. Well,
Oh
in
no.
general, basically, because Microsoft's first thing was they wanted 1 billion installs of Windows 10 by 2018. They're currently sitting at about 250 million. So, not doing so great there. They wanted about twice that much by now.
And pretty much like 200 million of those is, oh no, it's forcing me to.
Yep. Then Xbox One, they were expecting to have sold twice as many as they have by now. They've only just broken 20 million roughly. They're not entirely sure because they're not releasing sales figures. And not many people are buying games for the Windows App Store because no one wants to, because it's shit.
I mean, that's what we talked about when Nintendo are possibly releasing PC titles. If they have like their own store and stuff, there will be a lot of people that will because it's Nintendo. But just come on, guys, stop trying to make your own bloody stores. Just let it be on Steam. Like even bloody, what is it? Windows Live was better than having your own bloody store and all
Christ,
that
piece
crap.
of shit. Windows Live was the worst piece of shit
Yeah,
ever.
but it could work now, especially with the Xbox One being out. Like Windows Live, if it had the lifespan and it integrated with like the Xbox One and stuff, it could probably work now. Because the whole kind of idea of that ecosystem was to be connected to the people on console and stuff. Like towards the end of its
The entire
lifespan,
idea of it was to literally make sure you owned a copy of the game.
well, yeah,
Basically wanted to check online every 5 minutes, otherwise it'd kick you.
but towards the end of it, I mostly used it like because I used to own an Xbox, and all of my fucking friends were on Xbox at the time, and I had like 3 games for it. But I used to just talk to them every now and then, and so Windows Live was nice for that. Like I just boot up GTA and then just end up talking to my friends on fucking Xbox. But the cross-platform support would be interesting because Xbox One's a bloody PC now, you know.
Well, yeah, it is.
It
It's
is
literally a
PC,
PC.
yeah. It's running on Windows 10. So just this cross-platform on that, it'd be so.
Well, they are starting to put. I think Overwatch is cross-platform now.
No, well, it might be on consoles. It might be like PS4 and Xbox One, but not console and PC. I don't think it is cross-platform on PS4 and Xbox One. I could be wrong because I don't really care.
I know. I'm pretty sure Xbox One and PC there are some cross-platform games. I can't remember if Overwatch is one of them.
It's not. I can 100% tell you it's not. But because it's like the Windows 10 store and stuff. Why don't they just each game that comes out on that, if they want them to get to use the platform, why don't they make each like game that comes out on that as multiplayer cross-platform?
Some would want to do it. Others, it'd be the trouble because knowing that they have to make basically code a different version of the game for the stupid Windows app thing than they do for normal Windows would cause more problems. That's one reason why Lionhead Studios went under, as well as a couple of others by the sound of it.
Oh, yeah.
So that's one problem why a lot of them might try and avoid doing that for the pure fact the trouble. But yeah, Overwatch is cross-platform on both consoles. Not with PC, just with each other. So PS4 to Xbox One. So you're playing with PS4 scumbags? No, you're on PC. What am I on about? I'm going to be quiet now.
Yeah. I talked about my graphics card for half an hour. I'm definitely on Xbox.
Could be at this rate.
Oh, wow. Anyway, I think it's about time to wrap this shit show up.
I think it is.
You can find me on Twitter at Arcarious Endgame. I posted on Racially Insensitive Cat a couple days ago. Don't expect that to be posted on regularly, but that's at Hail Hitra, or just type Racially Insensitive Cat or RIC in Google and you'll probably find it. And that's about it,
You also
really.
just type penguin, you're seeing pictures of him.
Yeah. Of course. That's a thing that you've tried to make a thing, and I don't like it.
It's a thing that happened. You are this show's mascot at this point. You are the penguin.
Well, I mean, if I'm affiliated with Linux in any way, I don't mind.
You're not that good of a mascot.
Lucas?
No, right, yeah, me this time. Right, you can find me on twitch.tv/Usura91, at Kinski91 on Twitter, and a bunch of other places. Put either of those names into Google, you'll probably find me somewhere.
If you can spell it.
Oh.
Yeah! Bring it, bitches. They're not hard to spell.
And you can find Jamie on this YouTube channel because, yeah.
I don't do anything else.
Yep.
Pretty much. All the Pixitle Twitter page, I guess, which I post on.
And the website that's still not open.
Hey, how's maintenance mode going?
I swear that I'm getting a t-shirt list for sale.
You told us you've got a review sample. Bloody send us some goddamn t-shirts already.
It'd be send you a t-shirt. It'd be just give me a t-shirt as we live in the same town, so...
Yeah. Okay. Give him a t-shirt. Send me one.